talking today about people that have changed their philosophy.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of people that have come forward, and it's interesting. I think we might do a show in the near future specifically showing who's shifting from the left to the right, who's becoming more intelligent, who's growing a brain, but we
opening their eyes, Mike.
Yeah, I think when the conspiracy theories all become true, they're no longer conspiracies. I think that has a lot to do with why a lot of the people that were actually pretty big name liberals and leftists are now joining the ranks of at least centrists, if not conservative. We're going to talk about all that today, and enjoy the show.
Wow, we would have never believed this. We're on Spotify, we're on Apple, we're on Google. Go out there and listen to us. So we're excited about it. We're glad you're excited about it too. Relevant Rants, Mike. I'm here today with you. I'm excited to be back on state. And you know what? Years ago, when I was 18, I first registered to vote. I registered Democrat. Don't hit me.
I'm sorry to hear that.
I'm just like, what
I don't know
the
if we can
heck?
be friends anymore.
My dad was union in the trucking business, Teamsters, and so I thought that's the way to go. But after Jimmy Carter, my dad came to me and says, hey, I think the party has left us. And we both flipped over to the Republican GOP side. And I think others are doing that. That's what's so crazy, Mike.
I have something to say that I think you might hit me.
No. I think that's crazy that now they're acknowledging there's more defectors out there. I mean, I love that.
Well, I was always smart enough not to even be Democrat in the first place. But
well, Mike, we are influenced by our parents. And,
that's true.
And my
so
dad,
my parents were smart enough not to be Democrats.
My dad was an influencing factor on me, and so was my girlfriend's dad, who was the principal of my alma mater, South High School.
Well, that makes sense. He's a school administrator. So.
Yep. God rest his soul. He passed away, Don Murphin, last year, and he did a lot of great things for me. But there wasn't a lot of reasonable thinking even back then.
But you and your dad were trailblazers and leading the way of the defectors, right?
Jumped like that. Party left me. I didn't leave.
I mean, Jimmy Carter was like one of the top-ranking horrible presidents of all time, like maybe the worst. I don't know. Biden's trying to play that game. So
I would agree. Hey, but hey, we got a little clip of that you and I think are funny of two other defectors.
Yeah, you want to bring that up, Alex? I think it's the last Facebook one.
Bad. As a result, many Americans are struggling to put food on the table for their families.
Refresh it, Alex. Start from the beginning. 8.3%. And yeah.
Inflation is at a 40-year high.
Pretty good shape, huh?
No, actually, inflation is like golf. A high score is bad. As a result, many Americans are struggling to put food on the table for their families. They're scared. Inflation is at 8.3%.
Well, first of all, let's put this in perspective. Inflation rate month to month was just an inch.
Inflation is measured in percentage points, not inches. Inches are used more for measuring distance. Do you think it's good news that you're not even aware how inflation is measured?
No, I'm not saying it's good news, but it was 8.2 or 8.2 before.
Those are the same number.
We're in a position where for the last several months it hasn't spiked. It is just barely, it's been basically even.
I like how now you're using your hands to measure inflation. It seems more exact.
Yeah.
And I think it adds more credibility to your answer.
Inflation's a real big deal, Mike.
Tom, well, what's crazy is I don't know if maybe this is just my perception of reality or if it's the same, like other people are saying the same thing. You can tell me what you think. But I think there's a whole lot of people, especially from the liberal and mainstream media and Democrats, that are trying to pretend like we're not in a recession, and we very much are in a recession.
Mike, I spent a month in Nashville, and man, gas prices are $1.60.
Are they really?
Cheaper than they are here.
Wow.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah.
I mean, I was like...
And not a surprise, but, it's crazy California, right?
Oh, my gosh. When I got back here and had to pay the gas prices here...
For something a gallon?
It's like you're in an alternate universe.
And it went up in the past week.
Yes. We're going to talk about that on the show coming up, too, on some of the excuses that the people on the left make for Joe Biden and what he's calling Biden economics.
Bidenomics.
They're terrible.
Prices go up. people suffer.
I like it when other people say it
Yeah.
and we don't have to.
Yeah.
Joe Biden's been a goof his whole career. He's always been a goof. He's been caught lying. So
Hey, he
many
just tells it
times.
how it
There's
is.
so
And
much
he's
evidence
nowhere
he's
near it.
corrupt. Just
Conservative? Yeah.
undeniable evidence of corruption. And the stuff with him and his son, and the fact that mainstream news is ignoring this, except for right-wing media.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
The thing I like about Joe Rogan is, I think he says what most of America's thinking.
Joe, Mike, I don't think you and I agree with everything Joe Rogan
No,
says.
not even close.
But he's dead on. And the
Yeah.
fact, Mike, can you believe it, that you have to go to DuckDuckGo to really get the truth?
Well, because
you can't go to Google
the tech
or
giants
Safari.
are run by a bunch of libs, and they're trying to hide information from the. What's crazy is, I think they're. I mean, I don't think it's very evident, very obvious, has been for a long time, that they're in deep bed with the liberal government. And we were talking earlier about how they want to bring socialism, and like, why? I don't get it.
How about us doing a show that talks about a lot of the guys that were part of the left leaning and now are on our side? Because there's another big one, Elon Musk.
Right?
Huge.
Yeah, good point. Good point.
I mean, they're just saying it's ridiculous that the mainstream media is ignoring what's obvious to the rest of America.
Right.
The obvious points. I mean, Mike, you know me, I'm getting older, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah, you're getting older.
And here's a guy who doesn't sometimes, I think, know what date it is. He doesn't know what country he's in most of the time. He doesn't know what the topics are unless they give him note cards. He's obviously failing.
He doesn't even know which way to leave the stage.
He's failing on a national platform, which goes back to what we've said.
That's like the only thing he's excelling at is failing.
I never thought that.
Yeah.
I've got a saying: if you fall forward. He's not even falling forward; he's falling backwards.
Right. Well, I don't know. When he's going up the stairs, he's fall forward.
I don't
but
know.
Hey, if you guys if you watching this want us to do a show specifically on all the defectors from
Yes.
the left, we'll do that.
I'd
Let us
love
know in
to.
the comments.
I
think that'd be a cool show.
Mike,
yeah,
that'd be fun.
it would be.
We don't have to say it. They could say it for us.
Pretty much.
We
I think so.
could put our faces on them. We would.
Let's play this next Joe Rogan clip, Alex.
Just can't imagine the United States wants President Kamala Harris.
I don't.
I don't think anybody wants that.
I think that'd be worse.
Nobody
because
wants that.
Having someone
maybe
incompetent.
some people would prefer that over President
at least
Trump.
he doesn't know what he's doing.
Nobody
She's going to
wants
screw it up
that.
on purpose.
Nobody wants President Newsom either.
Oh, hell no.
Nobody believes in that guy.
He's destroyed California.
The guy's a
California.
con man.
It's like the best state in the
every
union to
state
become the
in
worst state in the
California,
union.
From trying to
I love what Joe
mandate
said.
vaccines
He's a
for
con man.
kids, but it was
almost
totally
said the word, Mike.
unnecessary. To be caught out in
Hey, you're
public
picking
without
up too
a
many of my
mask and
traits now.
lying about the fact that he was outdoors.
Yeah.
All of it. It's just nobody believes in that guy. He's just a politician.
I don't understand how
Just a
anybody could possibly vote for him. But you
stone
know
We
what?
did. California voted him back in.
The
narrative-driven
people that are getting
politician.
freebies handed
You know,
out left
and
and
just-
right, and they don't know
nobody
anything.
thinks he's a
What
real
Rush
human.
used to refer
Whether
to
you
as the
like
low
Trump or
information
not, whether
voters,
you think
those are
he's
the people
he's
that are voting
corrupt
for
or
him.
not. That's a human being. You know what that guy is. Same
Yeah.
thing with RFK Jr. Whether you believe that he's correct about vaccines or whether you believe his policies would be effective, and you know that's a human being.
Yeah.
With Newsom, you've got like this construct, this
Robot?
cardboard cutout of a person.
That's right.
I love that.
Yeah.
Then again, these are guys that 10 years ago, a decade ago, maybe
probably not
5
even that
years
long
ago,
ago, yeah.
maybe maybe before Biden got in,
Yeah.
thought differently. But now they're coming out. I mean, Fox did a piece the other day, Mike, about how the Democrats are defecting
In droves, yeah.
to the GOP.
But you know what's difficult because a lot of those guys probably aren't going to be Trump voters either. They don't like Trump, but they definitely don't like Biden. And Biden and Kamala. First of all, I gotta say, if you're enough of a dumbass, and I'm gonna say that out loud, Alex, don't even bleep that. If you're enough of a dumbass that you're gonna vote for Newsom, you deserve everything
you
you
can bleep
get.
the second one out, but maybe not the first one. And I gotta say this, Mike. DeSantis isn't doing himself any favors right now. I wish I could sit Trump
He's
and
stumbling. Yeah.
DeSantis in a room and say, "Can't you guys get along?"
Right.
I could do counseling for him.
Well, the thing is, Trump did a lot of good things.
No.
Governmentally,
policy,
when he was in office. But the thing is, you can't be an a-hole all the time.
And he's a fighter.
Yeah,
he wants to fight all the time.
You can't
every day
constantly polarize everybody, and terror. It just
yeah. So we just can't afford 4 more years like we've had.
But what's with that whole January 6th thing, right?
Well, they
I know I'm jumping the track here for you, but
they've lost all the stuff.
Well, they've lost any shred of credibility they ever had, which wasn't much anyway.
I don't think they had credibility.
No.
But they lost the stuff.
They didn't lose it. They destroyed it.
Well, no, you're right, Mike. They destroyed it because they knew it wasn't credible.
Right. Well, here's the whole thing, right? They are going after Trump, and what's the timing? They were holding on to it on purpose. They're going after Trump to try. They did indict him, but to try to get the news off of the Hunter Biden or Joe Biden scandal with all of this crap that they did, and they are legitimately. Not only, Newsom is a con man like Joe Rogan said, but these guys are con men, and they are crooks and criminals.
You know what?
And not just slight criminals. Every politician freaking lies. We all know that, right? But these guys, it's beyond that. It is treason at the highest level.
As we knew that Trump was going to be indicted on stuff. He even, there again, when he was elected.
They're doing that as political stunts.
Well, when he was elected, everybody had the phrase "lock her up." What'd that mean?
Ultimately, it meant
Hillary.
nothing.
Well,
but
it meant lock Hillary up.
Yeah, sure.
But he never did.
No.
And he would have, if he would have done.
It was kind of a rallying cry.
If he would have done that, it would be exactly the same thing that Biden just did against his political front runner on the opposite ticket.
Yeah.
So Joe Biden, who was in charge of the agencies, DOJ,
no, actually, what Hillary did was worse.
Joe Biden is in charge of DOJ and FBI, and he has actually approved to let his opponent in the presidential election be prosecuted. So he joins the ranks of Hitler,
yeah,
Mussolini, the dictators, that have been there, who actually put their, or did accomplish putting their
use law enforcement to go after the political rivals.
Yes. So Biden has joined those ranks, and nobody says anything about that. They just don't.
Yeah.
So and the list goes longer. You have, Mao Zedong, you have all these communist leaders, Stalin, you have Lenin, who went after, they didn't agree with what you said, they locked them up.
But yet they're trying to compare Trump to the, it's very much, what do you call it, projection?
Double standard.
Well, projection. They're projecting their own behavior and actions and words onto their opponents and doing exactly what they're accusing them of doing.
Well, how about that Hunter Biden? That Hunter Biden, the apple didn't fall far from the tree.
No.
What's that song, Cats in the Cradle?
Hunter
Biden,
silver spoon?
Yes. Hunter Biden turned out just like his dad.
Yeah.
And so he also had a good friend. He picked bad friends too. Mike, there's a point where if your friend's going to turn on you, they were really never a friend.
Right.
So I got to say that Hunter Biden picked a lousy friend in Devin Archer, because now Devin Archer is spilling the beans on his friend.
But now, reality is, what kind of company are you keeping when you're a drug addict?
Yeah.
And hooking up with prostitutes and everything else. And listen, I understand people fall, right? People screw up, people make mistakes, but he's never once come out and say, "Oh, it was a mistake." He's like, "Hey, yeah, this is my life. Go F yourself."
You know what's interesting? It's, we've all prescribed to, I think, Mike, that you are the sum of your 5 closest friends.
Yeah.
You can't have crappy 5 friends or hang around hookers or drug dealers and turn out okay, right?
No.
And that's
or Joe Biden.
That's something that you would hope, as Joe says, my son was a drug addict, a cocaine addict. We're hoping he's getting better. Well, I don't think he's getting better. And I think he's being aided.
He might be hiding it better, except for the bag they found in the White House the other day.
Devin Archer came out and just basically talked about how the media doesn't cover the plain fact that there was a influence peddling scheme going on.
Of course there was.
You know, Mike, it's like I'll drop your name a lot because of our shows, but it's because I'm saying I'm proud of you. I'm proud of what we've done with 511 Media Group. And I'm doing it in a confident way. When I tell people, hey, we'd like to get them on the show, they'll say, hey, what's about your show? We're getting ready to have our 150th episode.
In 2 weeks?
In 2 weeks. And Mike, that doesn't just happen.
No.
It's a lot of work. And that means you got 150 people who believe in what you did because you have guests and multiple.
Well, and across all of our shows, we've done over 200, almost 250 shows total.
So as the media, mainstream media, is kind of turned a blind eye to Hunter Biden, I love it when CNN says it. Jake Tapper wonders why Americans are still sour on Biden. People disapprove overwhelmingly.
Well, I think that they think people are just stupid, and I think that a vast majority of people are more intelligent than the mainstream media or the government wants to give them any credit for.
I know. You know, and it wasn't like Joe Biden didn't come out and say, we're not going to let Trump get in office, because he said it in 2022.
Yeah, can you play that clip, Alex?
It's on video.
Yeah, go ahead and play that clip.
I mean, you know, if you know, my mom told me, if you don't want anything to know about it, don't write it down or don't take pictures.
We just have to demonstrate that he will not take power by if he does run, making sure he, under legitimate efforts of our Constitution, does not become the next president again.
He almost said something else. There again, somebody probably like, no, but he's basically saying, I'm going to use any measures according to the Constitution, which we know they're bending the rules.
Right. Well, remember what I said about projection? This whole January 6th thing, they're like, we're going to try to blame it on him so that when we do it, it was like, no, everything's fine, right?
And now they're doing a thing called dumping. I mean, you know, didn't you think it was interesting that we had somebody testify in Congress that there's an alien body? He was told there was an alien body the day that Hunter Biden wanted his sweetheart deal with the courts. What happened to that guy?
Yeah,
I want to go back. I'd like to go down that rabbit hole a little farther. Guy on testifying.
Well, we need to get our favorite rabbit hole guy back on the show, and Steve Southers.
Yeah, Steve Southers and Danny.
Yeah, right. Both Danny rabbit hole guys.
I like that. You know, don't you love when you have energy people talking about why their energy is so expensive, or what is? I mean, this week we heard oil executives or oil experts talk about the sultering heat is causing oil prices to go up. And they blamed the refineries, saying that the extreme heat's causing a breakdown. Mike, do you remember the last time a new refinery was built?
Well, so here's the thing. I have clients in one of our businesses that are in the oil and gas industry, right? And we just had a conversation about this with one of them the other day. They're like, you know, that we're struggling harder than we've ever struggled. And I said, well, you know, this industry's always had ups and downs. You know, the oil industry has always had ups and downs. I said, so, you know, it's down right now. It'll come back, whatever. It's like, no, we don't see it ever coming back, because the way that California and treasonous Gavin Newsom is treating California, Comrade Newsom, sure, and the way he's treating the oil industry and everything in California, the jobs are leaving, the industry's leaving, and we're not ready for that. First of all, and how many times we looked at articles that said that's way down the road. But how could gas not get more expensive? And you went to Tennessee just a month ago, and gas was $1.60 less than it is here. Sure, gas is expensive because costs of everything have gone up. Yes. But in California, it's like twice what it should be.
It's so funny because I saw it in just general merchandise that I purchased on how much cheaper it is. And it's interesting that one of the points that they used was the heat causes the refineries to need more maintenance, or the parts are breaking down. Now, Mike, that's why a question I asked you. Have you seen a new refinery built?
Not in California.
They built them in the 60s and 70s, and they built them well because they're still running.
Right.
So they don't break down. They
do maintenance and stuff. But
they've been through 110-degree weather before.
Yeah.
But what about the things that are in the desert?
Well, most of it is in the desert.
That's what I'm saying. So I think they're just still trying to find an excuse. So then if we go to electric, I love the fact that you have this electric bus company called Patera. It's in Stockton, California. It's in China-fornia.
Yeah.
And they gave it billions of dollars. When I say that, that's Biden's gave them billions of dollars
Biden's cronies?
to start up. And it's interesting, and you could go down the rabbit hole. I'm not going to waste our time here telling you about this, but a lot of liberal politicians invested in the company, but it went bankrupt this week. Mike, remember when I was telling you 6 months ago that companies were going to start going bankrupt?
Yep.
They are. So here's a company that makes electric buses. And the crazy thing is, in Alaska, the buses won't work because the batteries freeze.
Yeah.
In the hotter parts of the country, they explode.
Right.
Then if they break down, it takes 6 months to fix them.
But I want to point out something. The thing is, they had all their they got a bunch of government money. All the politicians were invested. Then the company went bankrupt. Tom, you spent enough time in corporate America. You think that was planned? You think that was, hey, let's put some money back in our pockets?
Michael,
or you think it legitimately was a business thing and they
I
went out of
read
business?
you a true story, and I'd ask Alex to focus in on Mike's face as I read this. Man forced to ditch Ford EV truck during family road trip to Chicago. Biggest scam of modern times. Canadian man is calling electric vehicles the biggest scam of modern times after his frustrating experience with an electric truck. Dalbar Balaw, who lives in Winnipeg, bought a Ford F-150 Lightning EV in January for $115,000. Plus tax, which translates to $77,000 in U.S. funds. Of course, that was Canadian funds. According to a manufacturer's suggested retail price, he told Fox Business he needed the vehicle for work, but wanted something suitable for recreation and pulling his vehicles, but he wanted to be environmentally friendly. Says, but as Bala was quickly hit with reality of owning and operating an EV soon after the purchase, the vehicle compelled him to install 2 chargers, one at home, one at work, for $10,000. To accommodate the chargers, he had to upgrade his home electric panel for $6,000. So he spent $130,000 in total. Not long after the purchase, Bala got into a minor accident, which he said required light assembly on the front bumper, and the body shop took 6 months because they couldn't get the parts. So he said, so the eliminations of the EV truck became even more apparent when Bala embarked on a chaotic 1,400-mile road trip to Chicago. Fast charging stations, which only charge EVs up to 90%, cost more than gas for the same mileage. On the family's first stop in Fargo, North Dakota, it took 2 hours and $56 to charge his vehicle from 10% to 90%. The charge was good for 215 miles. On the second stop in Alberta, Minnesota, the free charger was faulty and the iPhone number on the charging station was no help.
Of course.
And he said the family drove to another charging station in Elk River, Minnesota, but the charger was faulty there as well. This sheer helplessness was mind-boggling, Bala wrote in his online post. My kids and wife were really worried and stressed to the point that they were not sure they had 12 more miles on their vehicle. Mike, you knew when I rode my electric car, charging anxiety. Yeah. Charging anxiety is a real thing. But now it was late in the afternoon. We were really stuck, hungry, and heartbroken. Bala unfortunately had to have this vehicle towed to a Ford dealership where he rented a gas-powered F-160 and continued his trip. Don't you love that?
Oh, I mean, it's like he bought 3 cars. Could I imagine going on a trip like that with my 3 little kids and and I've made cross-country trips where it was 24 hours at a time in a gas-powered vehicle because I'm not a dummy. And imagine being driving out in the middle of nowhere like Texas or New Mexico, Arizona, and being like, well, where's the next charging station? Well, I don't know. Well, we got 12 miles.
I don't know a car owner that doesn't have some stress, and they have to plan their trip around charging stations. They have to.
Tom, I don't think I could do it because how many times have I called you because I ran out of gas?
Mike, I'm telling you, because my car would alert me when it needed a charge. And I remember seeing Tesla, and it said it has 1 mile left. And I was looking at Tesla, but she was within a mile.
Yeah.
And I was like, I hope that's right. But when it got to my house, I was like, now I need a full charge.
Yeah.
And it just is, I'm just telling you,
it takes more than 5 minutes to fill it up.
It doesn't work. They just found out, they tried to do electric buses. It didn't work.
Well, they also
invested
tried to
billions
create
of
a company to get a bunch of money
Yes.
into the politician's pocket.
And then we
in the
just read an
disguise of
article about a
electric
guy
buses.
who wanted to support them.
Yeah.
He wanted to have environmentally safe, but you can't. You can't take a trip. It's just ridiculous. Stop
But how
it.
much money? It sounded like he spent like almost $200,000. Like he could have bought 3 vehicles for this less than the amount of money he spent.
Mike, when you really go down this rabbit hole, please go down this rabbit hole. Look at really what it's buying us in the scope of the climate change.
Well, that's the crazy reality of it, though, Tom.
It is, isn't it? Because it's not a science; it's a theory.
Well, and they talk about first of all, I really like Elon Musk and I like what Tesla's doing, but they talk about
They do it the real way. They got charging stations everywhere.
Right, but they talk about the impact to society, right? Or excuse me, to the environment. And the impact to the environment is actually much worse with the electric powered cars. But then you look at Ford, and Ford's already abandoned their electric, or not abandoned, but they definitely pulled
took a
back.
$5 billion loss.
Huge.
And now we read this poor dude, and we know why. Could you imagine all the people that bought those trucks having this experience?
Probably a lot of them.
If you haven't, drop a comment. Let us know. So it's interesting. So get this. This is what the White House does. This is what the White House does when they're getting too many questions for the amazing press secretary that we have now.
The amazing disaster that we
She's
call a press
the
secretary.
worst, and that's not just my opinion. But they have given 440 reporters no press access to the White House press people.
Well, and
because they asked I wanted to know, does Peter Doocy have one? Because
That's what I was
Peter
wondering.
Doocy even asked Joe Biden just the other day in front of him, and Joe Biden still denied that the fact that his son is making money from foreign governments.
Right.
So I'm sure Peter Doocy didn't get one. If he did, let me know. I mean, I'll go down that rabbit hole. Don't let me know. But I'm just saying. So instead of just answering the stinking questions
Yeah.
intelligently with not some pre-laid out excuse, which is all the press secretary's good for, is I
don't think this one's even good for that.
well, she just said the answer, but they've said, okay, now we're just going to withhold press passes because we don't want the wrong questions.
Well, but if you dive deeper into that article, because I went back and read the whole thing because I wanted to know more information about that. It looks like there's the one guy is claiming that they're singling him out in a way, and we're using him to kind of single out a bunch of other people because basically you're asking the wrong questions, and they're like, oh well, it's because you don't meet the new criteria. But the way they've arranged that new criteria is in a very special way on purpose.
Well, I know Trump had a problem with some reporters, and he says, hey,
he had a problem with a lot of reporters.
Let's don't make this argumentative, but he did. And then he would grant the passes. But, at this, they're just reasonable questions. I mean, Peter Doocy asked what was on my mind. I kind of like Peter Doocy going there and asking the question. I'm just hoping they would answer it once in a while. So it's funny. We have the migrant problem, and we have New York City, which is probably the biggest problem for a lot of reasons. My wife's got to fly.
New York City is a big problem.
My wife has to go to upstate New York, and I'm like,
good luck.
Yeah. She's there visiting some schools that she's helping out. But they're saying that churches are starting to pitch in New York City for the migrants. And, Mike, this goes back to the fact that the church used to be very responsive to help the poor, the downtrodden, and then it was taken away from the church. Now the church is jumping back in, but I think they got such a bad problem, the church needs to jump in, but they don't want to say, hey, thanks.
Yeah. Well, I do think that's a whole nother rabbit hole, Tom, because they
don't want to show that
they want there to be a migrant problem. They want there to be a homelessness problem because they're trying to tear down the foundation, the structure of our society.
That's how they're replacing the Democrats that are coming to the Republican Party.
I mean, yeah. Let's give them a bunch of free stuff so they'll vote for us.
Yeah. Isn't that the
It's a popularity contest just like we had in high school.
I agree. I always hate when this comes up because it's part of what you and I believe in. It says white Christian nationalism threatens U.S. democracy. I think if you go down the rabbit hole far enough, you're going to find this applying to a lot of extremist religions.
Sure.
But I like what happened on this campus. You know, there was a guy there talking about Christianity, and there was some liberal students there and their secular ideas, and this happened.
Well, you know, I think it's funny because they think they know everything, and they actually know almost nothing.
I love that. We'll play the clip.
Christianity was in Africa before Europe. Whoa.
Mic drop.
Did
She
you hear
didn't
that?
get it yet. The guy next to her does.
Christianity was in Africa before Europe. Yeah, like
What you do in the
Ethiopia.
blue shirt, he
Go ahead,
leaves.
keep going, brother. The Ethiopian Bible is older than the King James. And thank you. That's exactly
He's like, I'm
right.
out.
The argument that Christianity brought, that colonialism brought Christianity to Africa is completely wrong. Why is it completely wrong? Because Christianity was already in Africa before Europe. Christianity was in Africa before Europe. Everybody hear that? And one thing you need to know
that
is
makes
that
sense.
Christianity is not a
Well, we see
European
the
religion.
Jesus'
Whoa, whoa,
birthplace
one
was
more
much
time.
closer to.
Well, but you see
Christianity is not a
Peter
European
with the
religion.
Ethiopian eunuch.
You're awesome.
Well, here's a guy just standing there.
It's not a white European faith religion. Keep going, brother. I like you. Jesus wasn't white. Jesus was not white.
Yeah.
I'm okay with that.
Yeah, perfectly okay with that.
I mean, so here you have a group that doesn't know what they're talking about.
Which is pretty typical of the
Yes,
libs.
it is. And you had somebody come up. So I love good stories. So let's go out on a couple good stories because we got a guy, and he's coming up. He's not going the traditional way with shoes or product.
Yeah.
He's got a great book that our
yeah.
friends at the Daily Wire, you know.
I like this guy.
Yes, I mean, he's a great young man going and being part of the NBA, but he's bringing his faith, and I love his mottos.
Yeah.
Because they reflect our 511 Media Group.
Oh, yeah. Uh-huh. Mirror it.
Mm-hmm.
And in today's day, when we do give our money to companies that don't support our values, we're co-signing their message. So what I wanted to do was give Americans, freedom-loving Americans, faith-loving Americans, the option to buy with
What
their
is
values.
that message? If we wanted to buy your products, what are we buying into?
You're buying into a company that stands for faith, family, and freedom, and it's going to work to bolster those values and give you merch that supports those values and creates this community of people who want to come together and see these values celebrated in the marketplace and culture.
Well, let's go shopping. Dave,
have
drive the
that book.
camera over here and let's take a look at some of your stuff. You were with Nike for a while, but
I
you
was.
left Nike to pursue
Good
this.
job.
You've got all sorts of stuff, don't you?
Yes, so our
Well, I'm
first
wearing
capsule
Nike
is
shoes.
leisure wear merch. So we have hoodies, t-shirts, sweatshirts, everything like that.
like those
Sweatpants.
shoes.
I
And we're
do
gonna
like
be coming with a
shoes.
sneaker that's up closer to my NBA season that I'll be wearing. And we hope to get into every sphere. So all different
I'm gonna buy a
sports,
pair.
adults, kids.
I think I
Well, it's
might buy a
actually a
pair,
take
Tom.
on the Ark of the Covenant. So my pastor was actually thinking about what we could use
Isn't
for a
that cool?
logo. And so we redesigned it around the Ark of the Covenant.
You know,
Counselor is his
we
pastor.
report on the NBA, we report on players, usually it's controversial, usually it's kind of negative. What's the reception from your friends, folks you play with, the NBA itself, teams on this?
I've got a ton of love. People respect
Awesome.
me for my
Good.
courage of standing for what I believe in and doing things myself. Yes, I've gotten my fair share of negativity,
Sure.
but I like to focus on the positive. It's not about hating anybody. It's not about going against anybody. It's simply saying that our values are valid and they deserve to be celebrated.
You got a young man that's going to have a career in professional athletics. Saying,
Yeah.
I'm not going to go traditional.
Well, you know what else I like here? Because a lot, especially the Democrats and liberals, want to say, "Oh, well, you know, if you don't vote for Joe Biden, you ain't black, right?" I guarantee you, this guy didn't vote for Joe Biden, right?
It doesn't sound like it.
You know, I don't know if he voted for Trump or someone else, but I highly, highly doubt he's going to vote for Biden.
Here we have another defector from the dark side.
People in other parts of the world are not teaching their young children to hate their own country. If you continue to do this, how is the West going to do in the battle of civilizations? Because that's what we're in, right? The Chinese want to thrive, the Russians want to thrive, and they're teaching their children to be strong, to be confident, to go out there to learn science instead of, equity and diversity. And a bridge doesn't work very well if it's built on diversity instead of math. So
I'm with you.
Isn't that so refreshing to hear?
Well, you know what I think is a standout moment there, because what this guest, and I don't know his name, was saying was very valid and very obvious, very true. But I think what stood out to me at the most is Bill Maher's last statement. I'm with you.
Yes.
Because he was one. I've said this
I
before.
agree,
He was one of
Mike.
the biggest liberals that I couldn't even stand listening to.
I know.
And now he's coming out and saying, "I'm with you."
Hey.
And he is like I don't think he's so much, and he may have become more educated, probably did, and more enlightened, if you will, or whatever. But I think
he's using his brain.
Well, I think the Democrat Liberal Party left him more so than him.
Well, he's
leaving
been
them.
talking about it all the time, and he
Oh, yeah.
warned them. Cancel culture and everything. Speaking of cancel culture,
Story about cancel culture backfiring?
Our friends at the Daily Wire threw this out. A Native American group threatens national boycott if Washington football team doesn't change name back to the Redskins. Sounds like they were pretty proud of their heritage, because now they're saying if you don't change that team's name back to the Redskins, which cancel culture said offends us, which they're saying it doesn't.
Well, it's a bunch of white people got together and decided that this offends us for them, and they're like, no, it doesn't. But this is what happens when you try to appease everybody.
Because they want to tell you what you should think.
Mm-hmm.
Now you've got a Native American group saying, don't make us cause a boycott and lose the very essence of what the football NFL did, I think, in the beginning. They just said, hey, pick your mascot.
Well, you know what this reminds me of? It reminds me of Michael Knowles' book, Controlling Words, Controlling Minds, right? Because that's what they're trying to do. They're trying to persuade and trying to not just persuade, like brain power manipulate people based on words and meanings, and saying, oh, well, this thing. And I don't think at any point in time, Tom, and you grew up in the 1800s, so you will probably remember when football started.
When the dinosaurs roamed the earth.
But when they first came, the Washington Redskins, and they named the team, was their intention to be derogatory or racially, infringing?
I never heard anything, but I do know now there's a group that doesn't like it called the Commanders.
Yeah. Well, but back when they started the team, right?
Mike, I'm supportive, but I'm still amazed. I was inducted into my alma mater's Hall of Fame, but I was the last as a rebel.
Yeah.
Because they had to change their name to Spartan. But Spartan
had more slaves than the rebels.
Yes, I'm still there, and so I've told people I'm waiting for my other induction into the Spartans because I was at the cusp.
Right.
I was like the cusp, and it doesn't bother me because I don't think I did a lot to do that. I mean, I got to speak to my high school alma mater, and I shared that on the show.
Well,
and I just said, when you're walking through as a freshman, sophomore, junior, senior, you're not thinking about one day doing that. You're surviving. You're grabbing on.
Yeah.
And I just told them, I go, part of my high school success was I had good people that chose to believe in me and help me because they didn't see that in my life.
Well, I'm glad to see, because I do feel like we're kind of turning the page a little bit here, because I feel like everybody's getting so sick of this cancel culture crap that the cancel culture has gone and canceled themselves.
Well, let's look at not in this small town. Telling our audience we've done something with that because we filmed a show.
Yeah, should be dropping hopefully this week, Alex.
Yeah, and so we were saying we had something that was going to happen in Bakersfield. We said not in this small town.
We'll see if it happens.
Not without a little pushback.
Yeah,
and it's okay to get pushback. So, hey. Have a great day. We're ranting. You guys know how we feel. 511 Media Group is faith, family, freedom.
Yeah.
And we find that in Christ through, Thessalonians 5:11.
And we find it by upholding our traditional American values, too.
Yes. And if you're out there and you maybe don't believe in the same a religious institution that we do, hey, hopefully you can find faith, family, and freedom in what you believe in.
That's right. Have a great day. God bless.